Good afternoon. This is Keith Andrews. Today is December 16th, 2024. I'm here in the Birmingham metro area, Birmingham, Alabama, and I'd like to welcome those who showed up today. This is great. Got about 10 or 12 of us here. Sit around, chit chat about whatever it is we talk about today. I do see a couple of new faces, or at least one new face and a new name. So let me call upon Eric Foraker. Am I saying your name correctly? Foraker?
It's close enough. I pronounce it 4 acre, kind of with an accent on the A, but
Foraker. Okay. All right, Eric, just introduce yourself. Where are you?
it's close enough.
Yeah.
I am driving, so I'll keep this brief. As you guys know, my name is Eric 4 acre. I am in Wilmington, Delaware.
Wilmington,
Pretty Yep. Pretty much like I said, brand new agent. I spent a lot of time working in IT and just kind of looking for a change from all of the late nights and on-call rotations and that kind of stuff. Got my in September and had a couple of other projects to finish up. So now I'm kind of ramping up, working as an agent full time.
So
With that, I will turn the mic back over.
Are you officially with EXP Commercial right now?
Officially with EXP Commercial, right? I am with
EXP Realty.
So I haven't switched over or made the commitment.
All right.
Yet.
Well, one of my what's the word I'm thinking of, Paul? One of my I guess rules and regulations is we try not to talk about housing on these commercial crowd calls.
Yeah.
In reference to residential, individual housing and selling of those. Yes, we talk about housing as far as the economy and how that plays into gross national product and how we could figure out what's going on, because most of commercial follows rooftops, and that's how it goes, right? So anyway, just a heads up.
Totally get that. My interest is really in commercial, honestly. Yep. That's where I see myself. So
okay.
It's not to bring up the residential housing market.
No worries. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Oh,
and we got another new face here, and he's wearing a hat. Stefan. Hey, Heath. Where's your cowboy hat, Heath? Stefan's got his on. Where's yours? You know. So Stefan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Stefan Fudge. I'm I live in Tampa, Florida. I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. Brand new to EXP. Got my license back in November, and I knew off rip that I wanted to be in the commercial industry. I've worked around, the commercial industry for a while. On the land development side, and then on the building side with two of the largest home builders in the country. So, and here I am.
Well, welcome, Stefan.
Thank you.
Paul, he said Little Rock, Arkansas. What do you know about Little Rock, Arkansas, Paul?
Isn't Bill Clinton from there?
Or who else is from there?
Keith Andrews.
Keith Andrews from Little Rock, Arkansas. Welcome aboard, native.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Baby. Love it.
Are you an agent, Stefan? A realty or a commercial?
Commercial.
Okay. Then you're an advisor.
I'm an advisor.
Yes.
You're not a realtor, you're not an agent, you're not a broker, you're an advisor. That's the new term.
Gotcha.
Yep. And guess what, Paul?
What?
He's asked me to help him out in the beginning.
There you go.
I get to be part of his mentoring world. It's a beautiful thing.
Reach for the top.
Yeah. Kristen Miller. You're here, you're new, you have to introduce yourself. Nobody knows you. You're on recording. Okay, just going to give you the heads up. You're muted if you're talking, so unmute yourself. And feel free to show your face. Well, I guess that's not there. Here she comes. You're muted. There you
I'm
are.
so sorry. I just got a call.
That's okay.
From Eric, actually.
Do what?
I just got a call from Eric, actually.
Oh, yeah. Well, he should be here. Go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody. Nobody knows you.
Well, I am brand new. I'm not even done with my onboarding process, actually. But I've spent some time in the commercial arena, a little bit back and forth with residential as well, and some construction aspects. And helping people do some flips right now. And then what they can't do that is commercially zoned, I'm taking and running with.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Atlanta. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So as I was saying earlier, every week we try to come together unless it's a holiday. And we try to talk about whatever it is those of us are on this meeting want to talk about. So I'll put that out to you right now. Does anybody have anything you want to bring up topic wise, being towards the end of the year, calendar year? Anybody? Anybody want us to know anything great? Jacob?
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
I don't have an announcement. I had a question about commercial. Can I do that?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So listen, I've got a few listings, and apparently I keep getting potential buyers that are represented by another commercial agent, commercial advisor at another company, and they love to write a contract and tie it up for 180, 190 days due diligence period. And during that time period, the advisor on the other side for the buyer says, "Oh, we're going to take this property, and we know who we want to propose it to. And if they like it and their company likes it, we're going to move forward. And if they don't like it, we'll let you know. And then we want to back out of the contract agreement. Of course, we want all of our money back." And this is happening more frequently now. Due diligence periods that are very long. We had another one in Chattanooga that went, I think, 120 days. And of course, the seller's never happy. Would any of the more experienced advisors on the Zoom want to give me any advice on a way to either get around the long due diligence period or perhaps dump them and go get a better buyer? And how do I do that?
Go ahead, Jacob.
I don't have like all the years of experience, but I've been in business a long time, and I would get a non-refundable deposit up front. If they want anything past any type of normal time frame, I would get some level of non-deposit. I would call Keith and ask him how much.
Well,
But I
I
would
can,
get a non-refundable deposit. I have a couple clients right now that face the same thing, Paul. They're coming to me now because they were frustrated with the realtor they were with, who let that happen a few times with them. And they're sick of it. They're, you know, got like a $3 million building, no loans, no debt on it. He's not desperate, but he doesn't want to go through that again. But that would be my 2 cents.
so
Get
I,
at least the heck with them getting their money back. They want 50 grand,
uh,
non-refundable.
You want to say
all
something?
right.
Brian?
Yeah, trying to. Yeah, I mean, at least in my market, I mean, I do office, so like I have a building, I'm on the buy side agent. So $3.8 million building, I've had it tied up since August. And so when I have to, you put 100 grand, a couple percent of the total price. So if there's 100 grand at risk, we had to extend it. So I proposed 25 grand to propose it till February. So usually you want some money to go hard eventually for keeping the property tied up. But I don't know what type of property, Paul, but usually there's a cost the longer, but banks are taking longer. So if you vet the buyer and they put up money, typically they, you want it enough to where they care about losing it. So it's just really vetting that it's a good buy. Yeah.
So, guys, can I jump in here and ask a question?
Are we on the same topic, Eric?
Yes, we are.
Okay, let's go.
A comment was made about a reasonable time to tie the property up for due diligence. What would be considered a reasonable time? 30 days, 60 days? Give me kind of an idea of what, you would say would be reasonable there.
At least for me, we do 60 days for due diligence, 30-day closing, and then I have to beg for more time if something goes with the bank or appraisal, something. So that's at least in the DC metro, usually how we do it. But I would ask for longer personally.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Anybody else want to answer Eric's question about what's a reasonable time?
I
answer
agree.
would
90
be,
days. 90 days.
What do you
I
say,
agree.
Dan?
it's subjective to the complexity of the problem.
Right? It is.
Because if you have 300 unit multifamilies is a lot longer than a commercial building. Commercial building 30.
Yeah, definitely. I'm only
So,
talking.
so why don't we go back to the root of the situation? Several things could be going on. Brian, in your world, you're trying to tie up property for what purpose? If you want to tell us.
So this is a healthcare user purchasing an office building with one tenant. They're going to occupy the other 50%.
So that's going to go through.
I'm hoping, but I've had to delay it. I've done a
Okay.
deal with this buyer, but yeah, it's
Okay. So anybody else got a situation why somebody would do what we're talking about? I do, but I'll see if anybody else has a reason why people would do this.
And I don't mean to keep talking, but up here in the Northeast where I am, we have a ton of old mills and they're trying to get grants and all type of funding to convert mills into residential. And they take a long time, 6, 8, 9 months, a year to get all the ducks in a row with the city officials, state officials. So that's probably the biggest reason we have extended because of these old mills that have been here in the Boston, New England area.
Keith, so the two properties that I've dealt with this in the last month here, one was an old Einstein Bagel building with a drive-through QSR. The other one that I'm talking about now is a old gas station right off an interstate outside of Nashville, about 30 minutes. And it's an old gas station converted to a used car lot and an RV supply store. It can be used for a lot of different purposes. It can be leveled and scraped and put to a Starbucks or something. So you're getting these other advisors come along saying, oh, we specialize in QSRs. We have relationships with dozens and dozens of them. We know what they want. We saw your listing. We want to take it to them, but we want to put it under contract with a long due diligence. And they kind of want to go shop it to their main client. If the main client says no, they want to go to some others. So they're basically tying up the property while they go shop it.
Correct. So, Eric Bashford, are you talking?
It sounds like they're wholesaling it.
What'd you say?
It sounds like they're trying to wholesale the deal. They're trying to find like they'll tie it up and then they'll go to different vendor or they'll find a good property and then they'll try to find a buyer for it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Paul, very nice listing for the Einstein one. If that's a professional property, you might have to let a few people, professional brokers, jerk you around a little bit. But my guess is for something like the gas station, you might want to be a little bit more aggressive in finding an end user yourself. Give it a short commission or hardly any commission. And then the end users will come to you directly and you don't have to worry about it. Might be one way.
I like that. I had a lead come in today through some marketing that is a potential end user. And I thought about talking to the client and saying, look, we've got two interested parties. One may bring you a contract, but you're going to tie it up in due diligence for 3 to 4 months. The other one, we could keep shopping to the end user, so-called mom and pop or end user. I like that, Scott.
Anybody else? So let's just do this scenario. Any of you've got a client and there's a listing and somebody comes to you that's an agent, broker, advisor, whatever they call themselves, and they say, I have an offer for this property. Here's the offer, here's the terms. And the price is pretty decent compared to what your people want. And the terms could be 120 days, 180 days. Here's 5% of the selling price for earnest money. That's a pretty good chunk of change sometimes. So what do we do outside of just taking that offer to our seller? What would you do?
Qualify the buyer better?
What does that mean, qualify the buyer? You're talking to the agent, the broker, the advisor of the buyer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Get more information on the buyer. Are they a cash buyer? Are they gonna get a loan? Are they doing an SBA? Have they done this before? Are they new to the investment world? Just find out more about the buyer, how solid they are.
Anybody else?
The
You
question
would want
is
to-
why?
The question is why, right, Rich?
I mean, why do you need that much time? I mean, if it's a legitimate reason, if, for example, it's a development deal and they need to go get permits, et cetera, then it might be a reasonable amount of time for due diligence. But that's the first question I would ask is why do you need such a long due diligence?
Exactly. Yeah, get a list of what they're going to do and how long it's going to take. I had one that was real similar to this. We sold an acre of church property to Panda Express, but naturally they wanted to get their approvals, their all their approvals for their drive-through window. It was Panda Express drive-through, and because it was shared a property line with residential, it had to go through a bunch of hoops, and we were in due diligence and all of that for almost a year, about 10 months altogether, I think. But those guys were working hard month by month. I mean, they were working, and they made it happen. In fact, that's the deal that I got invited to EXP over, because Beth Mickley represented Panda Express. And I told the church property, hey, you know, okay, and EXP.
Great. Any other thoughts on this subject matter? Now I'm going to say, hey, Paul, I'm putting this under 150 days. That includes closing. And I can't divulge who my buyer is right now. So I need to put in here's you some earnest money. You know, I don't hold it. You don't hold it. Give it to whatever title company, whatever. So what else you want to know from me? Do you get a gut feeling of any way, shape, or form? Do you get a feeling like maybe you need to ask questions?
I would say absolutely, because your first gut is, okay, they're not disclosed because they're high profile. But then the second thing is, are they really? Are they just full of shit and they're just tying you up so something else can happen in the background while your eyes are closed?
Okay. One last thing I want to bring up on that one is Jacob mentioned get non-refundable. Is that possible, guys? In your marketplace, is that possible? You're going to say, listen, Paul, we'll take your offer. You're not answering any of my questions. The seller's going to ask the same questions, and the seller might decide that they'd rather make your deposit non-refundable and end of story, period. There's nothing you can do about it. You still want to do this offer. What are you going to do then? You're going to take that to your buyer and say that, or what? I mean, every deal is different. It's all about who the players are. It's all about the buyer, the seller, and if you guys are in the middle of it, same thing. You do not say yes or no for your buyer or your seller. You just pass the information back and forth. You try to answer the questions you can if your client wants you to answer those questions. And if they do not, what do you do? If your client doesn't want you to answer any questions, what do? You are representing the buyer at this point. What do?
You represent your buyer.
What do? You give the offer? Say, I can't answer the questions. Take it to your seller. Okay. If you're the seller's agent, broker,
you get
advisor,
permission. I'm sorry, Keith, you get permission. You go over everything with your buyer.
Yeah.
And try to cover as many scenarios as possible and
okay.
Have written down.
Understand
being
that a lot of us
negotiator for a union contract or something. I've been involved in these things.
Okay. There's a lot of us who have recurring clients. Notice the word is not reoccurring. we have recurring clients. And those recurring clients do exactly this that Paul brought up in the beginning. They go out there and they develop properties all the time. They have actual, their clients, basically. They're not brokers or anything. They're developers and they have clients, investors. And they see something fantastic that their investor wants, they're going to want to put it under contract. Happens a lot, right? I've got clients like that. Convenience store type clients can do that easily. They want to put it under contract, start talking with the investors like it, then you eventually move forward. If the investors don't like it, as the buyer, based on the due diligence period, the buyer can just say, well, no, that's not going to do it. We're going to cancel our contract and need the money back. It's within the due diligence period. There's really not much you can do about it, right? So is the key all about this due diligence that we're talking about outside of having to have due diligence for permitting and everything else? Is that, this is an interesting topic, Paul. This happens all the time. I don't know a clear-cut answer to it in any situation.
Also, in this case, the advisor who I talked to this morning said that his client has done other deals with them. They're taking it to one specific client. So my question would be, if you have one specific client that you've worked with in the past, you know how they operate, and really all they need to do is know about this property. They'll look at it, all the data and all the plat maps and parcel and all that. Why would it take 120 days to make a decision if they want to move forward? You know, Rich mentioned that earlier. Why do they need such a long due diligence period? So, you know, this all just happened this morning, actually, so it's good we're on the call.
Cool.
Second question regarding this. When the advisor on the other side says, oh, by the way, what are you offering as far as commission split? Does that have to be answered up front immediately, or can that be based on your client, based on if you can close the deal, based on how long it takes? Or just say, sorry, get paid from your side.
If I ask, you better tell me.
And what? Okay, so what are you going to say to him?
Me or Brian?
Anybody. Yeah. Okay, I have another question to take it back to that. If you want to be real, when you go out and deal with your selling clients or your leasing clients, I mean, your landlord clients, and you talk about your pay, that's the first thing you're going to work on, right? You're going to talk about what are you going to get paid for doing and what are you going to get paid for doing it, right? You're representing them as their broker, their agent, their advisor. They're dependent on you to take care of this property, get it sold or get it leased, right? What do you want to say to them for pay to you? What do you say? You don't have to give me a number. What do you say? Anybody? Remember, I don't answer my own questions.
Well, that's an interesting question. You must have asked that for a reason.
Yeah, this is a lesson today, evidently. And you got people been doing this for years. You got people brand new. You got people in between. And we're in all kinds of different markets. What kind of answers do we get from this? Anybody? If it's a recurring
tell
client, you
them.
already got the answers. There's Dan.
I just tell them. There's no
Right.
reason not to.
This is what I want. This is what I get paid for working with you. Okay.
Exactly.
Now you're working for your client. So when Brian asks you, Brian says, what compensation do you have for me? Because I've got a buyer coming to buy that property. What compensation do I get from the seller side? What are you going to say?
Well, you know what, Brian? Being a professional, you probably already spoke to your client about this prior to going out looking for property. So let me ask you a question. What are you getting paid? And how can we help
Say
get this
that to
deal
me.
closed?
If I'm bringing you a buyer and you say, what am I getting paid? I'm going to say, what percent am I getting paid for bringing this buyer the deal to you? And then I want you to write a percentage in that email telling me, and then I'm gonna say that's fair market, below market, or we're good, and that'll be the end. Or you're gonna say if it's a bigger deal, you might say, you might go a roundabout and say, we'll figure it out. I've heard that before. I don't love it. But for a standard size deal, I know what to expect in the market. And I just you should already have it in a contract with your seller, what the co-broke fee is.
Hey, Brian, that's not what Paul asked you.
No?
Paul asked you, what are you getting paid? But he forgot to say the words by your client.
Oh, for this deal?
Or for whatever deal. Yes.
For the one I'm working on, it's 2.5, which
Wait, Brian, don't talk about the numbers. So you are getting paid by your buyer to you, correct?
I'm getting paid by the seller.
Oh,
You mean-
you're getting paid by the seller. So you don't have a contract with your buyer to get paid?
I don't know.
Why?
The seller's paying me. Yeah, that's how it is
Okay.
here.
So anybody else got answers for Paul before I say anything?
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna blurt it out, okay? You guys watch 60 Minutes last night? There was a great
No.
discussion on there that relates right to this. And anyways, it was Hermes, you know, that really expensive thing. And they said, you know, you're a premium product. And somebody says you're expensive. And know what this is the owner of Hermes said. He said, you know, a premium product is something that delivers a premium experience. Something that's expensive is something that's normal, but it's cost more than other like items. So when I thought that was really interesting, because I've been getting into this discussion with prospects about price. And one of the things I was going to bring up as you brought this up was how to demonstrate value, what we do. So there were I'd rather be a premium guy, right? But not looked at as expensive. So there's like a whole buyer experience. And it just happened last night. It popped in my head. So it's not like I gave it a lot of thought, you know. But you know, I don't know if there's any ideas on that. I mean, I used to work with Stephanie Gillison, and like the way they deliver things and how quickly they are, and the level of all the materials and things she sends out makes her look premium.
Mm-hmm. And when she lists something with somebody, she's listing it for her. She will get paid by the seller, and that's all she's concerned about, right? You're shaking. What'd you say, Jacob?
I said yes. She
Yes.
does some buyers. She does some buyers.
When she works with a buyer, she also says, I am representing you. I'm expecting to get paid by you on anything we do. Correct?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what Paul is asking. That's what happens when people like you, Brian, who reach out and say, I want paid by your seller. And I say, there is absolutely nothing for you to get paid from my seller. You have to get paid from your client.
So that doesn't
gonna
happen
do?
in my market. So we wouldn't even, that's not how
No, I promise you that it's happening in every market. I don't care where you are, it happens in every market, Brian. I'm not saying it's the standard in your market.
Okay, well, you can all shake
Yeah.
your head all you want, but in my market, if I bring a buyer to a represented KLMB or CBRE, I'm going to be in that deal to get a percentage if it's between 3 to 6 million in that range, and I'm going to be looking for them to get paid. If I built this business where I represent tenants and counted on the buyer to pay me, we wouldn't get paid nearly what the market is when we get paid that way. So that's just the way it is in my market. If it wasn't, I wouldn't even do the buyer side.
Brian, do you have buyer broker agreements?
Sometimes, rarely. People ask me. Sometimes. I mean, I just got a cold call for an office and she asked me where to send the buyer broker agreement because between me and the CBRE guy, and I said, you just agree to do it in email because the way I was taught, It didn't really hold a lot of water. I do think buyer agreements can be good, so I'll probably add that in. But I'm at risk a lot of times, but once we get to LOI, I'm noted as the representative and I get paid.
Yeah. I would recommend starting a buyer broker agreement. That way, if the seller doesn't want to pay, you at least fall back on the buyer and the buyers has to pay you.
Yeah, no, I would I mean, it hasn't happened to me, that situation, but on the buyer side, it's within their agreement that they co-broke and pay me. And sometimes I do actually, end up with an agreement with the agent on the either leasing side or on the selling side. Usually there is a commission agreement during the process. So it's just not always with the client directly.
Blair, got your hand up.
Yeah, I realize I'm one of the younger guys on this call and don't know much about this business. But I can tell you, I just got a deposit this morning into my account. And you might be interested to know how that deal worked. I was approached by, and this happens to be landlord tenant, not buyer or seller, but it doesn't matter. I was approached by a tenant to find them a property. And I entered into an agreement with the tenant that said, you're going to be responsible for paying my commission at this rate. And however, I will attempt to collect a fee from the landlord. And if I don't, you're going to pay the entire amount. Or if I only get a part of it, you're going to pay the difference. And that's exactly how it ended up. I just received 2 separate commission checks, one from the tenant and one from the landlord. But going into the deal, I knew what I was going to get paid, what my percentage was. I'm not about to go into a deal blind. And I can't believe any of you would. Why? What's
It's
the
not
point?
going into the deal blind. I know what I'm getting
You
paid.
don't have an agreement, Brian, you're going to a blind. I'm sorry.
I mean, once in the LOI, it mentions that I represent the tenant, they represent the seller. Once we know we're going to go forward, we're doing it. I don't know, Blair. I do get it's extra protection, but I haven't had to do that yet. I probably need to get, I've only had clients go elsewhere a couple times. So yes, I agree it's important, but I build more, I don't know, what do you call it? Client loyalty as I talk to them. Now, if I was doing a bigger deal where it's, you don't know, I mean, I've done deals where I worked forever for a bigger, like big deal in DC, never happened. I wasted a lot of time on it. And no deal ever happened. But so I understand there, then I did waste some time, but generally it hasn't hurt me yet. So
you must have a crap ton of property in your market and you never have to find anything off market for your client if you're representing a buyer?
That's pretty accurate. Sometimes buyers will tell me to look at off-market properties if there's any there, but most of the time the off-market properties here are more expensive than the on-market properties for what people are willing to sell them for. So yeah, usually I don't have to do off-market. I do a lot of leasing.
Most things are on market and everybody plays nice. Everybody shares commission relatively equally.
We have a lot of, I mean, it's DC and Tyson's Corner, so it's a lot of professional representation. So they have agreements, what they're going to get paid, what the tenant rep gets paid. So it's less the Wild West here. But obviously sometimes you're going to get, there might be an issue, but it's usually, it would be really far out in the suburbs somewhere.
Okay, so to answer Paul's question, it's all about what is your agreement with your seller, your landlord, and it's all about what is their agreement with their buyer or their tenant in that situation, Paul. In a lot of the country and a lot of times, and I myself being a mentor at EXP Commercial, tell all the people that I get to mentor, I said, it's about you and your client. It's not about the other guy. It's about you and your client. You make sure you've got something in place to get paid. Notice I said client. I didn't say you and your seller. I said client. So that covers both sides of the coin. Make sure you got something in place to get paid by your client. And it works. And it works in a lot of part of the world.
Well,
And
not
I've
here,
only
because
had,
I get paid 50% of what they would never pay the percentage they pay for tenant reps here, the clients.
that's okay. So, and what the beautiful thing is when I'm representing the clients or the tenants, it's exactly what Blair did, and it works all the time. And like you did said too, Brian, you always ask what compensation is coming from the other side so that you can inform your buyer, your tenant, hey, guess what? They're going to be paying me some money. And you won't have to pay all this money. As a matter of fact, they might even pay me more than what you and I agreed on. So this is a beautiful thing, that could happen. But just for the sake of everybody else in all the other markets, take care of you and your client first. Make sure you're able to walk away from a closing and you're getting paid. And don't depend on somebody else going to pay
Yeah,
you.
to me, that kind of takes away from the point of co-broking, cooperation, and stuff like that. So I don't agree with you guys. At
Oh,
least
that's okay. That's all right, Brian. That's what we're here for. So anyway, the terms of co-brokering, cooperation, two different words, co-brokering in the EXP world. For the most part, most of us are used to co-brokering with another broker agent in a different brokerage. That's why I call it co-brokerage, which means it could be the EXP Realty people right there in your same town. It's different brokerage. You have terms laid out on pieces of paper there as well. We don't list 100% of what is sold in America. 80% of what is done in America is relationships off market. It's not listed. Make sure you have an agreement with your client. That's me talking to all of you and anybody watching this. Make sure you have an agreement with your client. If your client says, I'm not paying you a dime, why would you work with the client? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, since I do a lot of leasing, the only thing I've known from a guy that mentored me for 30 years, the client's never going to give you. So if we do it opposite, we're going to check if we're going to get paid. And then if we're not going to get paid, then we work out a deal that's much less of what I would get paid if it was on that side. So for me,
You're just making sure you're getting paid though, right?
yeah,
okay.
So
that's the key.
Let me
get paid. Paul?
Let me come back to me for a second. So I asked the question because it didn't appear like we had a specific topic of conversation today, but this was fresh on my mind as it's sitting in front of me. And what I love about these calls on Monday, is like you said, we have people from all over the country, different specialties, different asset classes. And what's cool about EXP Commercial is we can have this discussion without any shame or having to cover our face and say, what do people think? What are you doing? And we don't have to do what Brian does or what Rich does
or what Keith
Blair,
does.
but this is good for conversation. And sometimes people don't want to ask. I have not been in the business for 10, 20 years in commercials, so I'm still learning. I want to see what's going on out there. So thank you to everybody for contributing to this.
But to go back to your first question, when somebody asks you what compensation do you have for me, your answer should be what, Paul? What would you say back to that person?
What is your compensation for me?
What compensation is your seller or landlord going to pay me, Paul? What are you going to answer back?
Well, I could say the Keith Andrews answer that we are not offering any compensation to the other side. Depending on
you're getting paid by your client.
Yeah. Or like some other people said on the call, that advisor working for the buyer could be getting some compensation, but he's trying to get our side to pay for it before he has to look like a great like a winner for his client. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anything else, it's negotiable, it's open.
If
If you want it to be,
my
or you can just shut it
market,
down.
expect a war. If you do this in the DC metro market, expect a war. That's all I'm saying.
That's okay.
I would
We're good.
think in DC, Brian, I'm shocked that in the DC, which is the political capital of the country and the world,
Paul,
that there's not something in writing in a contract.
If I bring
it's
an office
litigious.
buyer, if I bring you an office buyer, healthcare, you've had something on the market a year, I get that deal at the price that you want, and then I'm not going to get compensated. You want me to ask the client when that's not how we do things here?
No,
Nope.
never ask after the fact. Always prep beforehand.
Well, now I know, Brian, that's how you do it there. So guess what? When I get a client in DC,
now wait, Brian,
refer him to Brian.
Brian's bringing up something good as well. Okay, you've had you and your seller has had something for quite a while, and finally something real has come along, but they're also asking that you pay their broker or agent. That's in the proposal. Not Brian asking, but it's actually in the proposal. You must pay my agent or broker. That's a negotiation right there. There's an opportunity to negotiate between the two so they can get it done. The seller's going to say, wow, well, and you're going to say, you're not taking that out of my money. You got to emphasize that with your client. That's above and beyond what you and I have in arrangement. Okay. Make sure you do that.
And
But
I would
you have
consider
something
that.
offered to you to negotiate. That buyer is
And-
asking you to pay him, his broker. Okay.
If you think I don't have to convince them to purchase an office building or do anything on my side when there's other office buildings they could purchase, I mean, we have lease incentives here too, 5%, something to get people to lease or stuff. So it just depends on the market. Yeah, anything's possible. I know what makes me get paid more and why I do it on this side. So that's why I do it the way I do it.
Yep. Any other questions, anybody, before I turn off the recording? Because this has been a good time for a recording. Good stuff.
I'll make a comment. I'll make
Yes,
a comment on this because my market is very much what he reflects his market to be. And so when I got all hooked up to EXP and I'd been wrestling with whether I should ever use buyer rep agreements. So, because I never had for 18 years almost or whatever before I came here, and talked to Brent about it, or I'm sorry, Blair. Talked to Blair about it, and he convinced me that I should start doing that. So now everybody's on them. I don't know that it's enhanced my business at all or kept one from wandering, or if there's any real material payback for the effort put forward. But I did it based on those recommendations. I out whether it's worth all the effort.
Yeah. The only thing that really matters, and Blair's in agreement, Rich is in agreement, is you got to make sure you're getting paid from somewhere before you even start. Just make sure you're getting paid. And the best place to start is with your client. Okay. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. If in your market, no client ever signs that, then that's something you're going to have to decide.
Well, you know what they say in the South, Keith, bless your heart.
Bless your heart. No, everything's different. Every deal is different. We all know that. Every single deal is different. Okay.
Keith, I have a question because
Yes,
I'm brand new to all of this.
Stefan.
I appreciate just being on here listening to you guys. What is the most you can charge as a commercial agent? Is it 3%? Is it?
No. Okay. No.
Yeah. That's
You
why I'm
decide. Okay. It's a wide range. We are not in the world that the housing world has been in for years. That's not how we work. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not one answer to that, Stefan. But we'll go offline in our one-on-ones about that. Okay. There's not one answer to that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I got a
Jacob
guy.
says he's worth 10%. That's what Jacob said.
I blurted out 10% to the guy, and he goes, "Oh, that's reasonable." I'm
there
not
you
kidding.
go.
See,
2 days later, 2 days later, 2 days later, I got referred to a guy, a buyer. And I blurred out, because I'm doing the buyer side, I blurred out 5%. Oh my God, he thought it was like stealing from him, you know? And he goes
Yeah.
into witness protection for like 3 weeks. He called me yesterday on Sunday. I'm not kidding, Sunday. And he comes up with 2.5%. And I says, I think you're talking residential. You know, I think
Yeah,
you're
it's a
getting
different world.
confused between residential and commercial, you know.
So,
Different
so
world.
Jacob,
But
I have
so
to do that
that's
too.
the answer, Stefan. Start
What'd you
high,
say,
buddy.
Brian? What'd you say,
Start
Brian?
high.
Brian?
So I
I
did
can
the
do
one
that.
with the agent and the same thing. They said 2.5. I said, this isn't residential.
Yeah,
So,
there you
we gotta
go.
so I think, I mean, we're probably all thinking the same. You're just trying to get protected and get paid. So I actually probably agree with all of you. It's just, I know how getting the clients to pay healthcare doctors and some of my niche would be, I wouldn't have any hair left.
I'm gonna kill the recording, okay? I'm stopping the recording. Hang on. Oh, wait, before I do, any announcements that we need to tell the world? Anything anybody needs to let the world know real quick? No announcements? Okay,